Hey everybody, make sure y'all hit that like button. Let me just adjust my lighting here. All right, I think my lighting is better now. Hit the like button, people. Hit the like button. Listen, it's late Saturday night. I had a good Saturday. I hope y'all have so far too. And y'all know I've been debating. I was like, do I do this? Do we talk about this project 2025, right? And I decided we're going to take it one initiative at a time. We'll see how it goes. If everybody's respectful, can hear each other, can dissect this thing, I'll continue on and throw one initiative at a time for us to talk about. But I want you, as we go through this and we talk about this, I really want y'all to keep an open mind and understand things. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of times we don't get to discuss things because part of the discussion meet people where their pain is. Part of the discussion meet people where they're hurt. And as long as you're living in hurt, pain, and shame, we're never going to grow. So I'm gonna give y'all some, and help me in the chat there in case people come in mid conversation. Help me calm the new people coming in the chat down, so I don't have to backtrack and restate things. But I'm not ashamed. I told y'all many times over here. Never been married. I have one son. Okay, so and I throw that out there because when I go to talk about some of these things, I don't want y'all to think I'm being a highbrow, you know what, like Tyler Perry was saying, but I'm joking when I say that. I don't want y'all to think that I got my nose up in the air and I'm looking down. See, the thing about it is sometimes what I think we don't do as some of maybe the older people in the community is say, you know what, I walked that road. And what I want for you is something better. The only way we're going to rise up as a community if we help people behind us not bump their head on the same walls and doors that we have bumped our head against. Okay, this first initiative is they call it Promise One. Number one, restore the family as a centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Now, when I go through this, I'm going to tell you that some of the things, but it's just my thought process. And I always tell you, your thought process doesn't have to be mine and mine doesn't have to be yours. But let's hear each other because we might be able to learn something from each other. And let's say this. I'm going to say up front that having an intact family, and I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not talking about you got a partner that's beating you upside the head. I'm not talking about a partner that's talking to you sideways. I'm talking about and I'm not talking about a perfect family either, because there is no perfect person, so therefore there cannot be a perfect family, right? But I'm talking about just having an intact unit. Hands down, an intact unit is going to give your children a better foundation than a unit that is not intact, right? So the way this thing is written is going to come at your it's going to hit you sideways, right? And so, but just because something hits you sideways, I just want to say keep an open mind and don't get stuck there, because there's something to learn. And there are some truths in this thing that may be hurtful to hear up front. But if things change in a certain direction, it may level us up somewhat. That's the best way I could say this thing now, right? So this 2025 document is 922 pages, right? 922 pages. The beginning pages kind of tell you what's going on, what it's about, who are the authors, and a little bit about them. I'm not going to sit here and read through all of that. I connected it, but even if you just do a simple Google search, you can pull up the document. I'm going to go to the initiatives. And like I said, I'm going to start with this promise one. And if this conversation doesn't take me and give me, my head is not like boop, 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 pounding, we will continue when I can fit it in to go through each initiative. And you ever, like when I was back in school, when I'm talking school, and I'm always mostly, for the most part, unless I say college, I'm talking from kindergarten to 12th grade. I don't remember what if in New York when I went to school, like they had middle school, then you went to junior high school, then you went to not a high school, right? So I can't remember what grade level it was, but I remember, and I don't even remember what class it was, if it was just simple English class or they called it something else. Sometimes they would give us these poems. And the poem would say something like, the bird is flying, this happened, this, that. And the teacher would say, does anybody know the meaning of this? And I'm like, what do you mean the meaning? They said the bird was flying, the bird was flying. And then the teacher would break it down and say that, no, it meant this. It meant, something totally different than what the reading of it just said, right? So in this document, it's saying some things, but if you break it down to the core of it, you can get a little bit more out of it. And what I think happens with certain people, they take one word, they kind of run with that, and they get the people hyped up over that. Thank you, Emmanuel, and analyzing it. They take one word and they get the people hyped up, and we get stuck there, right? They're taking away this, they're taking away this, right? So let's get into it. This is the best way I can do this today. This one is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to bring the people in the building. I'm going to read through this promise number one, and then we're going to talk about it, okay? So let me go ahead. Y'all know what I need in the chat, right? I need a what? Because just because we're doing Project 25, I still need a what in the chat so I can bring the people in. Yeah, I call it reading between the lines. Thank you, RDRD. Yes, y'all can help. And listen, when I'm at a loss for words, feel free in the chat to help me out. Help the diva out, okay? That's right, Rebels and Tay Tay and Candy. I need a choo-choo. Hold aboard, everybody. It is Saturday night. And even though we are not a political channel, sometimes we got to get into the stuff that's going to help our people get to the next level. So tonight is a special night. We are going to talk about Project 2025, and we are going through just one, because this thing is yay long. We are going through promise number one. Let me go ahead and just bring the people in the building, see what we could talk about this. Hey, Leo.
Good evening, good evening. Hey, Diva.
Hey, in my opinion.
Hey, everybody. Choo-choo.
Choo-choo. Hey, Felicia. Hey, E. Hey, Katrina.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. Choo.
Hey, Diva. Calling from outside of the country.
Hey, oh, look at you. Hey, hey, Julius. Hey, Tony. Let me just say, hey, let me just say this to the chat really quickly, and I ain't even going to get deep in it. I'm just throwing a thing out there really quickly so y'all know a little bit about us. Now, every now and then, we welcome everybody. If you ever want to come, you just hit the link and you get in the building. Only 10 people can be on the platform, and I'm included in that 10, so really 9, right? But we are family. I wish, you know what, next time I have to play that song, see if I can play that song. We are family up on this panel. Okay, so no matter how bad y'all might see us get into something, we leave it on the table. I say here all the time, catch the train, don't catch feelings. Okay, we are truly a family up here, and it's all love. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. Let me just go ahead and present the screen. Like I said, I did put the link to this document in the description of this video. And on page 37 starts promise number one, right? And that's all we're going through today is promise number one, and then we're going to have a discussion. Now, the 36 pages before it, and I'll just kind of I'll bring you to it a little bit. It just shows you the cover, like 2025 mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. And then it just has that. And it's interesting if you ever want to see like all the people that contribute to this document. You could just go there. It gives you the contents in case you just want to jump around to different spots, right? It tells you the acknowledgments, right? It's an interesting read, but it's long, okay? It's a lot if you got time. The advisory board, right? So it tells you that all of these foundations, colleges, and everybody that took a part in this. So, some people said like this thing is so crazy. I can't believe it. Independent Women's Forum. So in Institution for Women's Health. So just look through this for yourself, no matter whose conversation you join about this project 2025. Make sure you kind of skim through it yourself. So when someone's reading or telling you something, you know it for yourself too, because you actually saw it, and you don't just have to go by what they're saying in case they decide to have a very polarizing conversation, right? So it's very interesting, and it breaks it down to, for you, and why they did this and what their thought process was and all of that, right? But as I stated, it tells you a little bit about the authors of this thing. You see, it gives you like, everybody make sure they're on mute, please. It gives you a little paragraph about, just who these people are, just to give yourself an idea. And as normal, right, it's a lot of male contributors to this, okay? But when in all actuality, if you go to a lot of things that go on in this world, men are behind it, right? And so how do we begin to change the temperature and have more females in the room? That's another discussion in and of itself, right? And maybe with Kamala Harris, and perhaps if she wins this thing, maybe that will be a new era for us in so many different ways. I do see that someone is trying to get backstage, but as I said, backstage is packed. We can only have 10 people, and we are already at that limit. Okay. So promise number one, and work with me here, people. Okay. And then if you have it at home and you want to pull it up. Okay. Because I got to read through a lot here, and I'm going to get through it with y'all so we can really talk about this. And remember, we're only doing promise number one tonight. So promise number one, let me just make sure everybody's muted. Give me a minute, guys. Okay. Promise number one is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. If anybody on my panel has it up and wants to chime in and help me read a piece of this, feel free to let me know, okay? So I won't have to use all of my voice to get this out. But I would appreciate y'all. But let me know, because I know this is all like kind of like last minute. Okay. Okay, thank you, Felicia. Okay, so Felicia, if you don't mind, do you want to start out and I'll grab a bottle of water, or do you want me to start out?
It's okay, Diva. You could start out. I'll email the rest of the folks on the panel.
That's why I love you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll start out. Okay.
I have it up already, Felicia, so you can skip me. I got it up.
Okay.
And I will read also after Felicia.
Okay.
Oh, you can start, Leo. You can start so she can get the water. Then I'll come in.
No. You go ahead, because I'm trying to get to the spot where she's at.
Hold on, guys. I'll start. Put in the private chat. Felicia will coordinate and tell me when y'all want to chime in. Okay, so let me go ahead and start out. So promise number one is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural love and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see this in the popular left wing. Government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with government. These are the mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, family, work, church, school. Volunteering. Okay, the name real people give to the things we do together is community, not government. Our lives are full of interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual and collective happiness depends upon them. But the most important community in each of our lives, in the life of the nation, is the family. I want you to take note of that. Today, the American family is in a crisis, which I believe is facts. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen unalivened, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve, but can't, are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage in the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are heading towards social implosion. Furthermore, let me just ease this up a little bit. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue American kids from familial breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish their existential tasks. Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code and installing work requirements for food stamps. But we must go further. It is time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power, including through the tax code, to restore the American family. Today, the left is threatening the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. The next conservative president must make the institutions of America, civil society, hard targets for woke cultural warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, SOGI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. Pornography, manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political guardian, not intersectability, binding us this desperate claims out of free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to the First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynist exploiters of women. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered as offenders. Any telecommunications and technology firms that facilitated its spread should be shuttered. In our schools, okay,
the question of parental authority over their children's education is a simple one. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a goal all conservatives and conservative presidents must pursue. But even before we achieve that long-term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educators should be non-negotiable in American schools. States, cities, and counties, school boards, union bosses, principals, and teachers who disagree should be immediately cut off from federal funds. The noxious tenets of the quote, critical race theory, close quote, and quote, gender ideology, close quote, should be excised from curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children who are being taught on the one hand to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the giveness of our nature as men and women. Allowing parents or physicians to, quote, reassign the sex of a minor child is abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. Leah?
Okay. But the pro-family promises expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president's agenda must go much further than the traditional narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children like substance dealers to get them addicted to their mobile apps. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety, to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow this industrial scale child abuse to continue. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatness pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe versus Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing that many women who find themselves immensely difficult and often tragic situations, and their heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alter options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. In summary, the next president has a moral responsibility to lead the nation in restoring a culture of life in America again. You want me to continue, Diva?
No, we're only doing Promise One because it's a lot in Promise One. It's a lot. I'll speak first and then we'll go around. So let me say this. A lot of these trending topic stories that we do is connecting to some of this stuff that is being said, and this is just in Promise One. I don't know if y'all remember the story earlier this week. The 12-year-old unalived her 8-year-old cousin. It was over a cell phone. I don't know if y'all remember Jonathan Majors and Grace Jabari. This man almost got locked up over a cell phone. Just recently, we heard Apollo Nida and his wife Shireen, a cell phone. Do you remember Kiki Palmer and her boyfriend in the house scuffling over a cell phone? What I'm saying to y'all is, I know this thing seems like they talking crazy, sideways, and all of that, but it makes sense. These cell phones are addictive. When you go out to dinner now, the first thing they do is they're taking pictures of their food, and mostly everybody at that table is probably on their cell phone. People don't do anything now without that cell phone. What they're saying in here is true. Social media is addictive. The TikTok, the Instagram, the Twitter, it has more teens being bullied and thinking about taking their own lives because what happened before, in school, like if there was something that happened to me but I'm 54, y'all. When I was going to school, it stayed in the school and maybe it was on the block for a little bit, but it died down. When this thing now happens, it goes viral, and people that don't even know you, probably don't even live in your state, they find out about it. Did you hear in this document, which is very true, even in Silicon Valley, they make sure that some of their kids do not get a hold of that cell phone until a certain age. I think it was Michelle Obama that said that her kids, she didn't even give them a cell phone to a certain age. And listen, to soften the blow here, I want to tell you, I gave my son a cell phone at 10. But when we know better, we got to do better. And we can't let stuff, because maybe there's some stuff in there you said, well, Dad, I did that. Don't stay stuck. This is not about shame. This is not about fear. This is about knowing and doing better. Let me say this too. I know this may sting a lot of people because all we're thinking about is that taking our rights away. But see, the thing they do not talk about, and y'all know me, if y'all know me over here, y'all know me. The thing that they don't talk about when it comes to not having a baby, like, having the A word, what they don't talk about is the psychological damage that it puts on a lot of people. And I'm not here to say, y'all know me, you do what you want to do, vote for who you want to vote for, do what you want to do with your body. But I'm just telling you, they do not tell the psychological damage that happens to a lot of individuals that make that decision. And then some individuals, and I'm never saying all, they begin to use that as a form of birth control. And some of them end up having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then some of them, when they go to have a family, they can't. And so then you have the trickle effect. And I'm not saying this is the only people that need it, but then you have this trickle effect of maybe I need IVF, maybe I need this, maybe I need something, I need some help to have said baby because of these other things before that I perhaps did to my body. I know many people are in disagreement, but let's be true. The family is in crisis. And when you have a family that doesn't have a unit, That's when a lot of the times the street gets your kid. And the street gets your kid because you have to work. Your kid is home alone for even if it's a 3, 4, 5 hour window. And so then now it's different than when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it was just the house phone. Now they got everything in their hands. When I was growing up, you had to go to the library. You may have to get a book to ask somebody or know something, find out something. Now you type it in your cell phone and boom, it comes up. So now you maybe are, they called it in my day, a latchkey kid, where you had the key to your home because maybe you got out of school 2:30, 3 o'clock, and your mother wasn't, or your father, or whoever wasn't getting home until maybe 6 o'clock at night. So you was taught, some people had it on a chain tucked down in their shirt. You go home, you open this door, you don't answer for nobody. Only pick up the phone, I ring it 2 times, hang up, and then you're going to know it's me. And I call back, you pick it up. There's a benefit to the family unit. So I know this thing has really got everybody's level up to here. And the people are just saying, you better be careful, you better watch out. Project 2025. Everything in this Project 2025 is not crazy. It's not. If you think about the cell phone, it is addictive. I'll shut up and I'll chime in every now and then. Leo, your thoughts about this first promise, restore the family.
Okay, so I'm not gonna really speak on the restoring the family part and the fatherless children, and 70% of Black children are born into unmarried mothers, because that's just not my experience. My parents been together for 53 years. My other best friend, her parents been together 54 years. My other friend, both her parents died, but they were together as well for many, many years. So that's just not my total experience. About the crisis of family, my younger brother been married for 20 some years. So that's just not my experience. So I'm not really going to go either yay or nay on that particular issue, the first part of the promise. But I do feel like when it comes to the health of women, because there's one aspect that says in here that the A word will be totally not an option when you have a ectopic pregnancy. That's called a DNC, which in essence is the same thing as the A word. And in many states where it's been outlawed already, women are dying from ectopic pregnancies. So what I don't like is the language in which it's all or nothing. I don't like the language that's all or nothing. The implosion of the social and economic and the mental illness of teens with substance abuse, I totally agree with that. I do agree that these things are happening and it is destroying the family. Now, the part about the rejection of the church, I don't like that kind of language. I really don't. I don't want no religious stuff in my politics. I don't like that at all. It makes my stomach hurt. But the promise of wanting strong marriages and strong families, to strive for that, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I see nothing absolutely wrong with that at all. The long-standing goals to eliminate penalties for marriage. I as a single person that pays all these taxes that I pay for a single person, and all my married friends get all these benefits for being married, I don't know about that. Now, I don't know about the eliminating the marriage penalties. They're gonna have to show me what that looked like in the tax code, because I have not. I don't know nothing about that. Installing work requirements for food stamps, which is already there, but they want to go further, and I'm really interested in what that policy is really going to look like for people who do need this type of assistance in a way, because now if you make too much money, you can't get it, but you're working and you're trying to get out of your situation, and you're actually penalized, and that help is taken away from you if you make $1 or $2 over the limit. So that is the thing that encourages people to stay in the same situation, I think.
Well, let me just, I'm gonna let you finish, but that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say they want to remove that because now a married couple cannot get welfare or social services like that, right? That's why a lot of these individuals, they stay separated, and the man is not supposed to be living in your house and you getting Section 8 and all of these particular services, right? So what they're trying to say is they want to lighten up on that. That's the way I read this. I read this a couple times. I could be reading it wrong. I'm not saying I read it right. The way I'm reading it is in order to keep the family together, they're trying to lighten up on those particular rules surrounded around that program and let you work a little bit more so that you can still get services, right? And you're working, because the only way to get you out of this is to have you work. But a lot of people, they don't get out of it, because if they get out of it, they don't have the this, that, and the other. And they also lightened up where you can work and still keep your Medicaid a little bit longer if your work doesn't offer any type of insurance. But that's how I read it. But go ahead.
And I'm encouraged by that, if that's how you read it. But I do know in Congress right now, when anytime those type of bills are put forth, they strike them down. These conservatives strike all them bills down. They want absolutely nothing. But okay, maybe with the Project 2025, they're gonna do something different. Okay, so then this is the part here that also makes my stomach hurt, is the next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke cultural warriors. And this starts with deleting terms of sexual orientation, gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitivity, the A word, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used. And they say this to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule. That right there, to me, if you say we are the melting pot, and you say you come here to be able to have liberty and the pursuit of happiness, but in those same people who wrote the First Amendment were all white men. So the Constitution in real life was written for the protection, the pleasure, and the prosperity of white men. So when all these other gender and civil rights and for reproductive health and reproductive rights, when that language was added, it was to include all Americans. So that part right there is really making me feel a way. Now, when you get to the social media part, I totally agree. I am not into giving the kids a phone when they're 5. My nieces and nephews were never allowed to have a phone. They didn't get a phone until their teenage years. And so I understand that, and I really want to hear more about what the policy is going to be for that. And the critical race theory and gender ideology should be exercised from the curricula of schools. Well, check it. Critical race theory ain't in nobody's school. Now, it's in college courses. but it's not in nobody public school. So I get what they doing with that, but that's not necessarily a real thing. They said it was there just because there were Black history books in school. That does not mean that that's critical race theory. So I give it a C plus. I understand the initiative, and I'm gonna go ahead on and give somebody else the floor. Thank you so much, Diva.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. So, hey, Diva, men should not be involved in a woman's health decisions about her body. Who am I to tell her what to do? Pregnancy is a dangerous condition for any woman. Obstetrics is considered critical care for a reason. So, let me throw this out there as we continue the conversation. So, what they're trying to say in that piece there is that this wokeism, so to speak, is let a child be who they want to be, regardless of what their birth sex was, right? And what they're also saying is that they think it's insane, and I'm paraphrasing, guys. They think it's insane that is being taught that a child can decide under 19 that I want to be this or I want to be that. And then we change all the language for that child as to what we call them. And then in some cases, their body parts are being changed. Everything is regulated.
changes.
Everything is being regulated in our life.
Permanent.
Yeah, permanent changes, right? So everything is being regulated in our life, right? We're told when we can go get a driver's license. If you're a state that carries a pow and it's an open carry state or whatever, you're told when you can do that. So, and I'm not here to I want to be neutral in this thing where I get all sides of it, and I don't want to come across as I'm telling somebody how to think. I'm just breaking down what they're addressing here. So what they're saying is, with all this wokeism, with all of this stuff, it further drags down the family as a unit and throws all this stuff into the game, so to speak, right? And once you do something to your body, in removing body parts, is not reversible. And today a child, they like roller skates or they want to play baseball, and then tomorrow they wake up be like, I don't want to play baseball no more, I want to play basketball. So it's like when you want to say that today I want to be diva, tomorrow I want to be something else, and I'm under a certain age, it's no reversing that, right? Raheem, yes, it is. And it's putting parents at conflict with their kids because you have some mom and dads fighting over let the child do this versus that. And again, it's a breakdown of the family unit, right? So they're kind of addressing that there. Again, I'm not telling anybody, give me a minute, whoever's spirit try to talk. I'm not sure because I want to go around. I'm really going to, in my opinion. Again, I'm not telling anyone what to do with their body, but what I want to put on the platform is that all of these things, it leads to mental health issues. It leads to this. It's a trickle effect. And so they're trying to figure out a way, how do we bring back the family? You do have to combat these issues. I don't think anybody's going to have the perfect answer, but they're saying, as a thought process, these are some of the things that we think is going to remove the mental illness, remove the teens from allowing themselves, remove the substance abuse, remove these people from, joining a gang. Because when you look into children who have mental illness, who think about unallowing themselves, who end up being on drugs, who end up joining a gang, there's a common denominator. And for the most part, when you go back, there's a breakdown in the family, and there's something going on in the family. In my opinion, your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm gonna throw the train in overdrive because I'm appalled. Okay, I don't know about nobody else. I am, because I have been on both levels. And let me tell you something. First of all, when you are on these government resources, you still working your ass off to make ends meet, getting those services. Even the people that are working that receives the food stamps, the Section 8s, all that, it's still hard to maintain because even if you're working, it still counts as an income. And that income to them is more than whatever your bills are entitled to. So you still at a disadvantage. And that's the reason why you see people that are selling their food stamps, that are doing this, trying to find resources to help them out. Because if they get another job, then they're kicked off these resources that's helping them keep a roof over their head. Instead of them trying to say we putting families together by destroying these things, they need to go back in and restructure them to make them affordable for people that are struggling. But they're not trying to do that. Again, with the abortion thing, there are many things that requires a woman to have an abortion, not just because of it's another form of whatchamacallit. It's people that are sexually abused. It's kids that are being abused, and they come up. And I don't feel like nobody has the right to tell a woman what to do with their body. Let that woman and God decide what's right for them, because that puts more havoc on them. Carrying a child for 9 to 10 months and then having to let go of that child to put them up for adoption is a hard thing to do. You sit there, you cry, you agonize. That will put you in a bigger depression because now you're having to let go something that you bonded with, you care for in your stomach, knowing that you don't have the resources to take care of that child. So now they're putting you in another disadvantage. But let's be clear. Even with Medicaid, Medicare, and all the rest of these services that's supposed to be out there to help them, mental health is not even on the list. They only pay 30%. That 70% is left up to that person to pay. Now, if a person is already on the verge and they already at a disadvantage, how are they supposed to pay 70%? I'm just saying for me. I've seen
Come on, sister.
sides of it. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen women sit here and cry. I've been in homeless shelters. I've been all over this place. I've seen the struggle that has come across this nation. But instead of them trying to make it better, you can't make a woman bring the family together. We need to be talking about the men then. If that's the case, no woman wants to have a child and have to take care of it and struggle by themselves. It's not our fault that somebody hits it and quits it. It's not. I don't feel like this is going to bring families together. All you're doing is torturing the woman.
So thank you, in my opinion, for your passionate response. And in between, I'm just going to throw in some thought processes. Okay. And Raheem, you are correct. They incentivize these clinics. They use those cells from the babies, and the people don't even notice to do research and all of that type of stuff. And they don't do anything about the resources. And again, if we go back to the family unit, I'm gonna throw this out. What if there's more teaching on don't just lay down and have sex and not have protection. Understand that having sex, that you may find yourself in these predicaments. And again, I'm going to go back. The mental health of it all is a lot of things that they do not speak about when you have to do said situations, or you do it. And then if unfortunately you find yourself doing it multiple times. This is education, no judgment, right? So why don't we teach prevention, and why don't we teach some other things? And in the healthcare system, everything they talk about is preventative measures. Every year, go get your mammogram so that even if you do happen to have cancer, maybe we're going to catch it early so that you will have a better outcome. Get your vaccinations so that, because we already know what chicken pox and some of these other diseases do to you if you get them, so that you can prevent it. So how about we talk a lot more about prevention so that we won't have to be on this other end where they're facing having to make that decision to do this. All of it plays into the mental health in the breakdown. Felicia, you're up.
Excuse me, one more thing, Diva. Recently, in the past week, a bill was in the House that wanted to codify birth control. And do you know, out of 98 Republican representatives, only 8 voted for codifying birth control. The other 90 voted against it.
Come on.
Right, but see, what we have to do is knowing that, Leo, right? And knowing the information. And again, I'll go back to everybody saying, just vote for this one, just vote for that one, just vote for this one. Find out about these individual policies, right? And then you use that and say, this is why we need to vote for so and so, or I suggest you vote for so and so if you care about X, Y, and Z. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, everybody is at this level of only vote for this one because she looked black or she's like us or whatever. How about we throw out some facts out there and say, listen, if you want to protect this right that you currently have and are about to lose, this said candidate said that they're going to fight for this. That's why you need to vote for this person. I think we got to educate and help the people level up instead of keeping us on the ground level and talking stuff that just don't even make sense. And then you wake up and you wonder why. Why is this gone? It's gone because you didn't even know what and who you was voting for and why. Felicia, I'm coming to you. You're up, but let me just read this super chat. Brandy, I appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. The endorsements of family values made are, what is that? Government, I don't know what that is. GRNDR at crash in Milwaukee during the Republican National Convention weekend. A lot of married guys cruising for them.
That's Grinder, the gay hookup app.
A lot of married guys are cruising for the D. Shaking my head.
Well,
so again, no, they mentioned. Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate you, and thank you, Julius, helping me with the interpretation there. I appreciate you. So again, this is another piece that's in here. See, this one little section is loaded, and we didn't even get to any of the other sections yet, right? They talk about the P word. Please, guys, when we have this conversation, watch your words, even in the chat, right? They talk about how that disrupts, destroys, and it changes and alters who you are, especially if you see this thing too young, too much, too soon, too fast. And now with this OnlyFans, and now with just even the Instagram, you can see so much stuff that back when I was growing up, you will only see on a cable channel late at night. And mostly when you was a child, that late at night you would sleep. Now you can see so much in daytime TV. You see everything on these social media platforms. I want y'all to dig a little deeper and don't stay where stuff is cutting you and hurting you. Some of these things that are being said, and maybe it doesn't need to be pushed out in the way that is being said, but some of these things that are being said, it makes sense, and it is the disruption of the family. That P stuff is insane, and I think it does destroy families. It destroys people, young, old, and in between. Felicia, you're up.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here. It seems like we all have maybe different parts of part one that is touching particular areas. And for me, of course, it's talking about the family. And so if I may, I'd like to read the piece about the family again for those who came in later. So Diva was reading to us from page 4. Today, The American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen self-unaliving, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve, but can't, are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are heading towards social implosion. So I took deep offense to that statement. Not because it's not what I don't believe. I do believe that. I do believe that an absent father. So I'm not saying your father's in the household. I'm saying he's not in your life. I'm saying an absent mother. I'm not saying that she's not in your household, but she's not in your life. I'm talking about a parent who themselves may be struggling with addiction, poverty, joblessness. Not being in your life is a major, major loss to that child. However, while we were all talking, I went back and did some research. Many of you probably never heard of that great program back in the 50s and the 60s, where they decided they were going to restructure the Black American family. And how were they going to do that? Oh, well, we weren't even 100 years out of Reconstruction, and we were making great progress. We had our own churches, our own communities, our family unit. We had our own economies. I know many of you have heard of what happened in Tulsa, what happened down in Rosewood, what happened during the outbreaks of what they wanted to call the race wars, which was actually the fight for civil rights. And during that time, under the Johnson administration, they implemented this government plan called welfare. So I went and did some research. I'm going to give you some data from this group called the IFS, which is a government group. It is important to realize that things weren't always so. The Black American family provides a stark example. From 1890 to 1950, Black women had a higher marriage rate than white women. And in 1950, just 9% of Black children lived without their father. I'm going to read it again. And in 1950, just 9% of Black children lived without their father. By 1960, the Black marriage rate had declined, but remained close to the white marriage rate. In other words, despite open racism and widespread poverty, strong Black families used to be the norm. By the mid-1980s, Black fatherlessness skyrocketed. Today, only 44% of Black children have a father in the home. In unison, the rate of Black out-of-wedlock births went from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994. Roughly, that's where we stand today. One contributor to the family breakdown, which soon spread to poor and working class white families, may have been welfare expansion. Cash welfare in meager form existed since 1935, and some welfare expansion took place during the Kennedy administration. But under Johnson's Great Society, which began in 1964, benefits became substantially more generous and came under greater control of the federal government. Identifying welfare as a contributor also along shifts with the labor market and the deindustrialization. What also happened during that time, there were rules or agreements that were made that who could receive such benefits. Your father could not be in the home in order for the family to survive, to hold on, to have an income as they fought through poverty and oppression and depression. So this was a government program instituted by our white brothers and sisters, because we certainly weren't running the government in any way in the 60s because of, well, Jim Crow and so forth and so on. So when we talk about this Project 2025, I will agree with Diva on some level that it's not something they haven't already implemented. I think what we should be asking ourselves is, what are we going to do differently? And I don't like to use pronouns, but when I say we in this case, I mean we Black people. What are we going to do differently? Because it's not working for us. What worked for us, they took from us. So here we are some 40 years later, and we have these numbers that are not running in our favor. Our children are suffering. So what are we going to do differently? I don't want to get into the conservative ideology or what the next president is going to do. I'm always talking about what they say, those table issues, the ones when you're at home, how it affects your home, your family, where you're going to invest your time, where you're going to put your energies. And I believe the family comes first, and I believe all children should be protected. I'm done for now.
Appreciate you, Felicia. Tony M, you're up. Tony, are you there? Going once, going twice, Tony. All right, Emmanuel, I'm coming to you.
All right. I want to start off by saying I disavow Project 2025 and I reject it as a policy framework. However, going based off just Promise One, there's a lot of things that they are correct about. And I think the main one is the two-parent household. I just want to remind everyone about the benefits of a two-parent household and kind of in three categories: economically, emotionally, and developmentally. So a two-parent household typically have higher combined incomes compared to a single parent household, which provides, better financial stability and access to resources like better housing, education, healthcare, and just extracurricular activities that help to develop kids. Also, expenses related to raising children, such as childcare, education, and healthcare, can be more manageable when there's two parents that share that financial burden. Because you got mothers running around here complaining about the child support payments are not being paid up and they need more and all of this. Well, that doesn't really exist in two-parent households. Second, like I said, is the emotional support. Children, when they have two parents, they benefit from two adult figures who can provide emotional support in times of crisis. And the support can be for the parents themselves. They can support each other because they're sharing those responsibilities of parenting, which reduces, guess what that reduces, guys? That reduces stress. It improves mental health for both of the parents. And more than anything is that studies show us that children from two-parent households may have fewer behavioral problems and a lower risk of engaging in delinquent behavior. And they also tend to perform better academically. So people can try and dispute this until the sky turns green and the grass turns blue, but it doesn't change the facts. Now, let me be clear about this. A child that comes from a two-parent household, it does not mean automatically they're going to be successful, and one who doesn't is not. We're just talking about statistically who is more likely to succeed and have just a better opportunity. But of course, anything is possible. But again, the facts are the facts. I don't think we should shame no one, but I also think we should, acknowledge the reality. In my opinion, the problem with society is that people have abandoned the Lord and they have not placed him as the center of the household. In my opinion, everything in the Holy Bible is true. Now, as far as the kids being addicted to the phones, that's true. They scroll on TikTok for hours and hours and hours and hours. Now, like I said, I don't agree with Project 2025 because I feel like it's not the government's place to tell people how to parent, but that doesn't mean everything that they wrote in this first promise isn't 100% true. Now, as far as the A's, y'all were talking about that earlier. I am pro-choice. I agree with what some of the people said here. I don't think the government should ban abortions, but I would never recommend that to no one. The solution is not to end a life. Psychology tells us that women do suffer after these treatments, and y'all can look this up at the National Institute of Health. They talk about these side effects that normally aren't talked about when you got these people screaming, my body, my choice, healthcare, and all this. They don't really talk about depression, worrying if you're going to be able to conceive again, abnormal eating, low self-esteem, nightmares, guilt, and regret. So I don't know how we're going to bring back the family unit. Like I said, I don't think it should be the government, but we do need a come to Jesus moment. California has been passing some crazy laws that if your 4-year-old comes to you and says, hey, I want to change my gender, if you don't allow them, you could even be accused of child abuse. I don't believe children should be mutilating their bodies. That's horrific. They are mentally ill if those are the thoughts that they have. You can't just do anything you want. Now, I'll end by saying this. I am voting for Kamala Harris because I believe the government's job should be to give people a helping hand. But here in Project 2025, where it says there is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father, they are absolutely correct. That's all.
I connect with you, Emmanuel. Let me say this, and this is general talking. Everybody's saying the government need to stay at our business, but then some of these same people are the ones that turn into the government to solve their problems when it comes to money, housing, and everything else. Give me a voucher. Give me health insurance. Give me money to buy food. So, and the other thing is that I go back again, Emmanuel, you mentioned, and I don't tell nobody, believe what you want to believe. But I'm just saying, the Bible said, if you give a man a fish, he's going to eat that day. You teach him how to fish, and he'll probably eat for life. Right? And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. So a lot of individuals where they're getting this check, 12 months go by, and they done nothing different, and they're still getting the check and the voucher. 3 years go by, 4 years go by, but in the midst of that time, they had baby number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe 7. And so it's a bottomless pit that they stay in poverty and in that hole, and they do not get to level up because, this is the vicious cycle that is built for them to stay in. And that's why they're saying here is that maybe we had these programs. Maybe we can revamp it a little bit, and that just because they didn't write the word that way, maybe we can revamp it a little bit and say, okay, if your husband is with you and y'all both need help for a minute here, you could get these services, right? If you have to work and in order to continue to get these services, maybe it will change your mindset, and you may have the mindset that, you know what, I want to get a better job, work more, and not have to live under these constraints. It's a lot. And I don't think there was never anything that I know of where every piece of it I agreed 100%. But I think there's a lot in here that needs to be a thought process. And I do think the world is just very over-sexualized. And I think, unfortunately, our children, they get exposed to too much too soon and too early, and they get taken advantage of. And I can't say for sure. I'm not going to say anything's for sure. But I would hope, even though there were parents that allowed this going in their watch, but I would hope that and I'm only going to talk about this because it's an open story and Usher spoke about it himself. But I would hope if there was a father involved in that Usher situation when he was trying to go, do his music thing, that when they would have said, let him stay with Diddy for a week, a month, or whatever the case may be, I would hope Daddy would have said no. And so sometimes when it's a two-parent household where I'm lacking and may have a lapse in judgment, maybe my partner, my husband might say, hold on, wait a minute, you said they could go where? No, they can't go there. And then, the husband speak to me and I'll wake the heck up and be like, oh, you know what? I wasn't even thinking about it on that level, right? So it's bigger than just mom and dad being in the home. It's about the bouncing of ideas. It's about the lowering stress, because when you can't handle it, daddy will step in, or daddy might already told them no, and the discussion is going to end there, right? So it's just, I just want everybody to broaden this thing just a little bit and say to yourself that, okay, maybe we're not liking the way that they're trying to go about this, right? And look at it in the sense of a lot of what they're saying, it is destroying. It's destroying our country on a whole. It's definitely destroying the families. Julius, you're up, and I'm gonna
Hey,
get
Diva, before you go on, Tyler Perry telling people to only get a man that can pay a light bill.
well, he's problematic too, right? And but see, that we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that, because that statement is so problematic in and of itself too. When he's sitting up in his mansion with his cook, his chef, security girl. Julius, you're up.
So I want to speak on the topic first and foremost, on the topic of gender identity. I was in my late teens. First and foremost, therapy is essential. And I say this because my purpose, my story involves therapy. No, I not once went to conversion therapy. I went to a therapist that specializes in gender identity and dysmorphia. And as I was able to talk and stuff like that, and she was like, okay, well, if you want to do this, you will have to go through this. She discussed with me and was starting to guide me through the steps. And so I was in my senior year of high school. I was 19 at this point. And after meeting a couple of times with my second therapist that I had, I said to my mom, and both of my parents, both sides of my family, they're very supportive of me. If anything was to happen, it would have been on site. I said to my mom, I wish not to move forward. And believe it or not, she was shocked because I always, when I was a kid, I always felt that I was in the wrong body, so forth, all of that. What I was able to find was, after saying no to that, I was able to find a healthy medium of like being able to express my feminine side, its attributes, and also my masculine side. And being a fabulous gay person who doesn't have a care in the work. But also, all of the mental, psychological, emotional things that would go along with that, I just didn't want to deal with it. And I was at peace with my decision. It's been 12 years since I made that decision. Now, going on to the family topic. Yes, there are benefits to a two-parent household, but that doesn't mean it reduces stress and stuff like that for the child, because what they did not address is the peer pressure. because your child can be one way at home with you and another out in the world. And it doesn't matter if you have a mom and a dad, two moms, or two dads. It doesn't matter. I want to say this, and Diva, I have to agree with you that our society is overtly sexualized. Overtly. And some folks have looked at me with a side eye when I say, can you put some clothes on? Because I don't want to be out and about looking at your butt cheek or looking at you basically not having any clothes on. And to me, I do go to church on Sundays and all of that, and I am on committees. And I am discerning if I wanted to be a deacon or not. I am in experience going visiting other churches. But I do want to say what's missing in today's church is the individual spiritual component of it. Because we could talk about the Bible all day. But what we have to remember is the Bible was rewritten and manipulated and rewritten again. But God's love is unconditional. And I have been through situations to where I didn't think God would have me or guide me through. But he had. And so, on the topic of critical race theory and all of that, that's not taught in schools. You really don't know about, you really don't know about Black history until you get into college. Because there was things I was learning at my community college, especially in a political class that I just took. And I was like, huh? I was dumbfounded. Dumbfounded. And even though it's just a hot mess that I don't see an ending solution. Because it's about scoring political points and not really want to tackle the issue head on with both short-term goals that can benefit everybody and long-term goals. I don't hear none of that. I do agree when it comes to government assistance. If a couple is going to live together and they're on Section 8, they need to live together. Stop booting the person out. Let them live together. I do agree with that. But there is things that was read tonight that I unequivocally disagree with. And I will end with that.
Thank you, Sebastian. You're on.
Well, hello everyone. How are you guys tonight? Diva, I'm so glad you're doing this live because I've been begging for it. It's been so necessary. I've even given you ideas in private messages. Okay. I agree with practically everything with what Emmanuel has said. I completely disavow this mandate. I don't support this mandate at all. But even though I don't support something, there are aspects of something that I can support. And promise number one, I support a good majority of it. Family values are very important, and everyone knows this. I've always mentioned this. I come from a family of immigrants. They've always prioritized family over everything. It would either be, actually, no, it would be faith, family, and then career / education if you don't have that yet. Those were the top three. And if you don't have those things, you don't have a good structure. And I see many people in the chat are saying, oh, that's up to the people if they want to do this. That's up to the people. Yes, it is up to the people. And as I've read this whole 900-page mandate. A lot of people are saying this is going to give government more power. Well, clearly in promise number one, we clearly see that it clearly says that government should be outside of the family. We should incentivize families that and etc. What I will say this though, um, politically I'm very moderate. I have views on both sides. And but I will be honest, a lot of people are mentioning the former president and the current president, former president, current presidential candidate as being tied to this project, but he has denied and disavowed this project as well. But I'm not sure if in his heart, only God knows. Um, we cannot sit back here and act like some truths, even though they're harsh, we should not hear them. Because there are a lot of true things within this whole mandate, despite me disagreeing with many of things in the mandate. There are truths to this.
You breaking up, Sebastian. Is it just
Really?
me? Yeah, you was for me. I don't know what happened, but go ahead. I heard you say really clearly, so go ahead.
Okay. There are truths to this mandate, and there are things that I completely disagree. When it mentioned that part where it said, nothing can fill the hole in a child's soul with because of the absence of a father, I thought there's nothing that was nothing but the truth there. Many people seem to forget this. A lot of children who become, I'm gonna say it, school powers come from single parent households. A lot. There's actually been statistics about this. A lot of children who do become very involved in street life, criminals and etc., do come from single parent households. And I'm going to say something else. If the, most likely a two parent household, it's not likely that that child will become the statistic of a single parent household. And if you don't discipline your children, if you don't raise your children, it's either two other things that can raise your children. It's either gangs or law enforcement. And trust me, you don't want one or the other because you may not even have a child after that. When it comes to the topic of the A, I'm glad you brought this up, Diva. I'm glad your stance on this is very good. I'm very pro-choice on the A. I'm very pro-choice on the A. I will never force my public opinion. I don't force my narratives on others. I do not do that. But you cannot deny the facts, and there are many facts. The psychological impacts of it are dangerous. The economic impacts of it is also dangerous as well. There's economical issues with including in it. Less children, lower workforce, less taxpayers, cuts to social benefits, i.e., which is one of the reasons why Social Security will be dissolving in the next couple of years, is because people did not have enough kids. There's less people working. There are more beneficiaries to Social Security than there are contributors. I will also say that it's not false within even in the
You muted yourself, Sebastian.
sorry, even within our community, it is a very prevalent thing. And you've mentioned it well. Some people even use it as a form of BC, which is not. And before people engage in relations with one another, I want this to be mentioned. Don't engage in relations with someone that you don't see yourself being a parent with, because that is a result of relations. That is one of the results that can affect. And also, don't engage in relations with someone that you don't see yourself wanting a disease from. Test yourself. I know some people mentioned the pills. The pills do not work 100%. Staying celibate does. Many of these things don't work 100%. Um, don't have, do not have children unless you're ready for it. But if you're not ready for it, there are many people who truly do want kids and cannot have kids due to biological reasons, or biological reasons are the predominant reason. They would love to have a kid. And the statistics have shown there are 37 families for every child that is born to someone who does not want a child. So it's very difficult to adopt a kid in this country. It's like a lottery to adopt the children, which is why a lot of people tend to go outside of the country to adopt a kid. It's sad, but it is truth. And we must do more to improve the adoption system. I don't care, Republican or Democrat. They both must work on something to improve the foster care system as well, that is broken. I completely do not agree with the narrative that
Wait, hold on. We're not stuck. We're not stuck at all. See, that's what I mean by saying we got to agree to disagree. Because someone doesn't have the same thought process as another person does not mean that we are stuck. We're not stuck. Everybody has their own thought process. And over here, you're allowed to say whatever it is you want to say and believe in. I'm not here to push anybody into anything. We're just trying to break this thing down, and no one is stuck. Your belief is your belief. Who you want to vote for is who you want to vote for. And you're not going to come over the Chronicles of the Gray-Haired Diva and I'm going to tell you who to vote for. I'm here to say use your own brain and your own mind and to break this thing down and to say what they're saying here. They're bringing up some very valid points. And maybe we don't like the way that they're trying to resolve these points, but they're bringing it up. So you know what? Here's a thing too, right? When you know, if we take this thing basic, and I'm sorry, Sebastian, I'll come back to you. When you take this thing basic, at a job, they have supervisors and managers for a reason. And the reason why they have these supervisors and managers is because at the end of the day, somebody has to make a decision. Maybe it's best to stock the shelves at night. Maybe it's best to stock the shelves at the crack of dawn in the morning. Who's right, who's wrong? I don't know. But the manager got to say at some point, we got to make a decision, and I'm going to decide that the shelves will be stocked at night. So these things that are going on, and the reason why I really want to do this, because many people are talking about it, but nobody truly really read it. People are hearing little pieces of it, and then they're saying things about the pieces that they heard. Let's be clear. In my mind, pornography is the devil. Okay? It wreaks havoc in lives. And many people are saying, and we did a disclaimer in the very beginning, and the disclaimer was that I'm not talking about you being in a family where the husband is beating on you, this is that, and all this toxicity is going on. I'm not talking about that. And I also said in the beginning that there is no perfect family. Said that in the beginning. But let's be clear that a unit, even the Bible says when 2 or 3 come together in my name, a unit is going to be better than one. Period. Point blank. It is. You know, you got the Nick Candace, and I'm only bringing up his name because it's something that maybe everybody connect to, right? You've got the Nick Candace. You got these basketball players, these football players that are just dropping their seed everywhere.
Contributing to father absence.
That part. You have the one girl, was Tristan Thompson. He refuses to meet this one kid that he freaking created because he's pissed off at the mother. But you laid down with her. You left your seed there. So nobody wants to talk about maybe you don't have sex until you get married. Or maybe you don't have sex unless you committed to one partner. Nobody wants to talk about prevention. We all want to stay at the rhetoric part of it and just, act like, like I said, if you, and I was a single parent, and I'm not going to tell nobody I know that you should do that on purpose. I'm not. Just because I did it, I'm not going to tell nobody I know. And I know, and I've experienced some very good marriages. I've seen it with my own eyes. So what we're saying here is that, yes, that cell phone is like a drug. I know some people that cannot, they will turn back around and go back to their house and get it. Now, I will say the difference is now we needed, when I was growing up, there was a payphone on almost every corner, and all you needed was some change in your bag. Now you really do. They have us addicted to these things. You really do need your cell phone because there are no pay phones. And if something happened to you middle somewhere, you need somebody. You good luck trying to get help. So you do need your cell phone. They have created the world where you need it. They also have created it where they push things through so that every 2 years, whether we want it or not, you got to get the upgrade because they're doing something to it. So all of this really is a thought process. This is not a matter of Diva's right or Sebastian's right or Emmanuel's right. We all have our speaking points to this. And the really reason why I wanted to do this is because people are taking the little stuff that, again, they're pumping out in social media and not having us think about it. At the bottom line, a unit is better. I'm getting home from late work tonight. You got the kids. You can start dinner. I'll come home. I'll bring what we have, you need soda or bread or whatever the case may be. But you're already in the house with the kids, getting the homework started, starting dinner, and I'll stop at the supermarket to get the rest of the food that we need. That goes into the whole fast food situation. Because the kids, everybody's driving, everybody's running. Nobody can make a sandwich in the house or all that. And now we're eating this fast food, which contributes to our health, the decline of it, and so many other things. This thing is a trickle effect. And until we get past this thing of who's right versus who's wrong, no, we're all right in a different way. And a solution has to be made. There's a problem, there's a crisis, and we need a solution. We may not like the solution they put forth, but you know what I was always taught? If there's a problem, don't just come to me complaining about the problem. Come to me with the problem and some solutions. So we may not like the solutions that they're trying to say that it's occurring, that they're trying to combat these problems with, but we have to then come up with some solutions versus just saying, oh, this is stupid, this is wrong, this is not right, we're going to lose our rights. What is our solution to it then? We got to have some solutions to it. And then be able to speak out, what are our solutions to this thing? The family is in the crisis. And that's a point blank in the period. A lot of these people that are in these games, if you hear them speak, and you can Google this right here on YouTube, they was like a brother to me. They took me in when nobody else would. My own mother kicked me out, and they became my family. Sebastian, finish 60 seconds, then I got to go to Katrina.
No problem. I hope you can hear me well. Okay, I'm going to say this last thing on social media. Social media is a very dangerous thing. A lot of people are not noticing this, but clicks and views are what makes social media now. Young teenage girls, and actually boys too, are starting to compare themselves to IG models, male and female. And they're becoming anorexic, they're having body dysmorphia, they're taking laxatives, and some are going as far as taking tapeworms, Diva, to lose weight and do certain these dangerous things. And now these things are becoming more dangerous and more dangerous. Mark Zuckerberg sat up in Congress, and I want to thank that senator or member of the House who said, are you going to apologize to the millions of parents that your algorithm has failed? And he stood up and turned around and said, I'm sorry. Because the reality is there was a whistleblower who came from Meta and said that the algorithm is made to be detrimental. There was a whistleblower. Remember that day where Facebook, Instagram, everything, WhatsApp were all down? That was because that whistleblower came out and said it. I'm tired of these people saying, oh, it's the parents' choice if they want to put their kids on social media. No, it's time for social media to have requirements. 18 and up, and that's it. No child should be on social media. Point blank, period. And there's this there's this show called Black Mirror. I want everyone to watch this episode. It's titled Nosedive. None of the episodes, you don't need to watch all the episodes to watch it. They have nothing to do with each other. Just watch the episode of Nosedive where she was doing everything for social credit points, i.e. through social media. Y'all need to stop with this narrative that, yeah, the parents, let the parents do it. Let the parents, it's the responsibility of the parents. Yes, it's the responsibility of the parents. But as y'all are saying, not all parents are good parents in the chat. So that's the same narrative we should hold. Thank you.
Katrina, you're up.
Okay. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm so confused. On one hand, the government want us to have kids, right? And then on the other hand, they want to prevent us from having children. Now, back in the day, they used to give women the IUDs, the fan what they used to put in women's arms, tubal, but they couldn't. If they was married, they had to get the husband permission before they even let the woman get that. So are you trying to stop women from having kids, or do you want women to have kids? Because now you're trying to stop the birth control. So I know back in the day, I know a person went through this situation. They was having problems with fibroids, and the first thing the doctor told them was, "You need a hysterectomy." Okay, she went to another doctor. He told her, "There's nothing wrong." And I'm not racist or anything, but he say white doctors tell black women they need hysterectomy because they don't want them having kids. So I'm confused on, do you want people to have children or you don't want people to have children? Because we get in two different scenarios. Now you saying that you don't want to push the ABs on women. You don't want that to happen. But then you don't want to give them birth control either. So they're talking out of their mouth. It's a catch 22 because you're saying one thing and you're doing another. Now with the social media thing, I understand that. We have 4 and 3 year olds that can work a phone better than a 22-year-old and a 26-year-old, and they want to play Roblox. And then you have to pay money to buy a little costume. You got to pay money to buy a sword. You got to pay money to get another little block or whatever that mess is. So yeah, the phones and stuff is ruining children. But I see it as this: you have to put a limit on what your children can use on your phone. You can put on there parental provision or whatsoever so they can't go to these sites. You have to monitor them because if you out, like you said, when you're out, you have to, if something happened at school or whatsoever, they got their phones or whatsoever. I think they should have like a lock on them until they need to use it in emergencies or something like that, because these kids does go on there and see everything they want to see. You can go to Instagram and you'll see a P will pop up. You can just It just pops up, and kids see that and they give them false confidence on a real sexual relationship because they're going by what they saw on Instagram or TikTok or P Hub, because they can pull it in their phone and pull it up. It'll come up on your phone. Um, the thing with the two parent homes, yes, two parent homes are good, but if you're in a two parent home and you have like um, a toxic relationship, like I understand what you said at first, Diva, and you have kids that come out. Just look at the person that tried to assassinate Trump. He has a two parent household, and look what he got up there and did. You had the guy that went down there in what is it, Sandy Hook, down in that school. That was a two parent household, and look what they did. So it all depends on what that child is going to do anyway. You can raise a child up in church, but that'll be the worst person that you ever want to see out on the street. You can be a preacher, and your children can be the worst kids that's out there, that's doing stuff that the people in the schools wouldn't do. So it's all depends on the structure that you put in that child. But a child, like I tell you all the time, a child won't do something in front of their mother's face what they'll do behind their back, because we was kids. The things that we would do in front of our mom, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do in front of their face. We do it behind their back. Because I always tell a person, don't never say what your child won't do, because you're not with that child 24/7. Because that child will pull some stunts, because we pull stunts. And having, like I said, having a two parent home, that's good, financially wise or whatsoever. But then when you're in a two parent home and they're not getting along, they're butting heads and all that type of stuff, that's just going to bring more turmoil to that child. So I say it again, that's a catch 22 on that part too. You have some good family homes, you have some bad family homes, and everything is. And then if you have in yourself that you want to make it good in your life, regardless of what family, what type of family home you come from. If you have that integrity and that distinction in your life, and you want to get something that you want, it doesn't matter who raised you. If you want that, you will go out and get it, regardless of what type of family you come from. If you want to be something in life, if you got a expectation on doing what you need to do, you're gonna do it regardless of where you come from. You're gonna make it. I've seen people that grew up in group homes, that grew up in adoption centers. They come out, they become millionaires, and they don't have no family. So like I said, it all depends on who does who, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Raheem. You're up.
Well, thank you for. I had to leave and come back, and I'm so happy to be going behind Katrina. I didn't hear any solutions read in this PDF. What I heard was put fathers first and to hell with everybody else. That's what I kept hearing. It's not my job to come up with solutions for the Republican Party because I don't want them to win. So why would I give them any tips on how to improve this written rubbish? And I'm not stuck. I'm not hurt. I'm recognizing the gaslighting and I'm calling out the BS. We can have a unit if we choose. I do think that a family unit is beneficial to both male children and female children. I agree with that. I agree with that without Project 2025, though. And it's something that we have been preaching in our community for years. So this is nonsense. And, to sum it up, because there were so many bullets, I guess I could start with the first one. People who don't like P videos, don't watch them. That's all you have to do. Don't watch them. People who do not want to intentionally miscarry a child, then don't have an A word. Don't have one. But stop messing with other people who don't have a problem with it. Next thing, I don't know why we have to keep throwing out facts about Kamala because it was so much that was said. We had to talk about the policies. If people don't know Kamala's policies by now, they don't want to know. And after all this reading, I'm still waiting to get to the part how Project 2025 is going to what's the word I'm looking for? Unite um families, and albeit Black families, because initially it was their initiative, quote unquote, to tear the Black family apart. That was the white man's objective. We cannot let the Black man and woman be together. They said that would make us too powerful. Felicia just mentioned Jim Crow when she spoke, and she did a great job on that. So now you want me to believe that the same people who had an invested interest in destroying the Black nuclear family is now overwhelmingly determined to put it back together again. Really? Why? Why the change of heart? What's in it for them all of a sudden? Because I like to think critically. Let's think. You mean to tell me that those people who, because I saw the names and I saw their pictures, the people who put this document together, you really want me to believe that those white men want the Black family to be put back together again? Do they? Um, it's strange to me. And if they truly feel this way about Black families, then why do they tear so many of them apart? I remember when Barack and Michelle came out as a united front when he was campaigning, and how many Republicans spurred rumors about them and speculated that Barack was cheating. How many times have those Republicans bashed Michelle and talked about the way she looked? But they care about Black families. As soon as Melania came out, who, by the way, was doing OnlyFans before there wasn't OnlyFans, soon as she came out, they said, now there's a real first lady. That's what the Republican media said. So now they want to steer us away from the P word and watching those videos, but you want the lady who acted in all the P word movies, you want her to be the first lady. Oh, okay. And speaking of kids, growing up in a single parent household, didn't Trump's kids grow up in a single parent household? Not this last one, but the first batch. Because remember, he has 5 kids by 3 different women. And he is their nominee for president. And they want him to carry out this agenda when his whole life spills outside of what the Republicans' core values are. It's a contradiction. And it's a way to make the forgotten and surplus men feel important, and they really are trying to stick it to women. That's all I got from listening to this. There is an energy which has been taking place in this country that men want to humble women, and that's just what it is. They say we're too smart, we talk back, we make our own money, and they don't like it. And back to Trump though, because it's all coming at me at once. I saw on the Wendy Williams show when it was still on, Ivana Trump said out of her own mouth that she had those kids by Donald in so many activities just to distract them from him not being around. So even when he was in the household, he wasn't there. So how was that different? Putting your kid in sports and activities to distract them that their father is not around, then putting a cell phone in their hands for them to entertain themselves with in the other room while you occupy yourself with something else. Listen, I don't care if Trump says he doesn't support Project 2025. His former staff wrote it. God forbid he get back in again. He will hire similar staff of a similar mindset. I don't care what anybody says. The Republican Party doesn't care about kids. They only want women to have kids. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. They want to get their numbers up, but they also want us to have children because it's just like back in the old days. You have a black slave woman working. You want her to get pregnant so then her kids can go to work too and work for the government and pay into this fading social security that folks keep talking about, just like in the olden days. So last 60 seconds, let's talk about that P word. I do find it interesting, like I said, that they nominated Donald, knowing that he was found guilty, and guilty of misuse of campaign funds when he paid off a Peace Star. I don't know how they can put this in their document and then push him forward as the nominee when it's court document, it's been testimony, and it's been proven true that he was cheating on his wife with a Peace Star. And so earlier someone mentioned, we should teach preventative measures to decrease unwanted pregnancy, but we do teach preventative measures. We do teach abstinence. We do teach about condoms. And when I was in school, they took us to a place called Fern Bank. They separated the boys and the girls, and then we had the sex talk. Nowadays they don't do it so much because the Republicans wanted to put the power back into the parents' hands. They didn't want the schools to talk to the kids about sex. So now it is left up to this is all this they did this. That's the whole. They did this, and now you want me to believe that now they want to undo it. They've had a change of heart. Okay. It's problematic for me, and I do take it personal. When people say, we have to teach women to stop engaging in sexual activity so that they won't get pregnant. It's problematic because it's a shaming tactic. And I think this is the reason that they want to eliminate the word equality, because if we don't know what the word equality means, then we can't ask the question, like, how come you want to teach girls abstinence but not the boys? I didn't hear them mention anything about boys having intercourse. And my thing is, if the boys are having intercourse but the girls are abstinent, who are the boys having the intercourse with? See, we have to be careful what we ask for. I didn't hear one objective as to how they're going to micromanage a man's penis the way they do a woman's womb. I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear one objective. So in my opinion, you toss out the whole thing because, again, it's a way to humble and put women back under the rule of thumb of the man, because, in their own words, the father is the biggest hole in the child's heart that a child can have, never mind poverty. And I just think that we are getting away from what having intercourse is. But like Leo said, we've all been there. Like Katrina said, we've all been there. A body's chemical response of being attracted to the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever your preference is natural, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And if you get caught up in the heat of the moment, it happens. And I resent that, after the pregnancy has already occurred, you'd have to tell me that I'm stuck with the baby that I don't want just because it doesn't fit your moral standing. I believe this entire agenda is a way to, like I said, just hold us back. In 10 more seconds, I want to touch on what Julia said about this LGBT stuff. That's how they started this opening, because Diva, I believe you were reading that part. They want to keep the family together by removing the terms diversity, sexual orientation, gender identity, and whoopty-whoopty-woo. And I believe it was read that the LGBT group distracts and hurts the family unit. And someone commented and said it pits parents against one another. So their proposition, from what I understood, is to take away the words and take away the affirming care, and this will save families and decrease people from unaliving themselves, which is complete bull, by the way. It's been gay people since before a lot of our ancestors or cousins of our ancestors came over here on boats and ships. So these people have been here for a while. So what do they propose we do with LGBT folks who are already here, who are born to heterosexual parents? What are parents supposed to do with children who are LGBT and you don't want to affirm them because they're here? Because I see them in the school, and I don't care what anybody says. Sometimes you can look at a child and you can just tell. You can just tell. And so I want to know what is their objective other than disregarding it and telling them that what they're feeling is a mental illness. Then what do we do after that? What I'm hearing from this initiative, they're saying they want people to go into hiding, stop being who you are out loud, and live a life of shame. And I used to watch this show called Pose, and this was a depiction of a group of LGBT folks in the 80s. Parents were fighting over their children being gay back then. So this is not anything new. They're playing with us. And this whole agenda, there's nothing good in this first initiative. Throw this thing in the trash.
Thanks, E. Tony, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Diva. I wasn't expecting to go last, but here we are. I think the last time I was on, I did mention that Project 25 is designed to slowly erode rights away from minorities. We have to look at the history of who's most affected by that first preamble of Project 25, which is about the family unit. Who are they targeting? They're targeting African Americans. They're implying or inferring just through those early lines in the manifesto that they wrote up that somehow we are a problem that was caused by the other side, that began in 1619 when the first shipment of Africans were brought over to this country. From 1619 to 1865, of course you're going to cause mental health damage. You're going to cause physical damage. You're going to cause financial damage to a whole entire race of people. Then from 1865 to 1964, we suffered 100 years of segregation, racism, discrimination. That is going to set you back. Your mental health is going to suffer. As a result, especially for Black men who didn't have the high college education, they had a harder time connecting with women, especially women who would marry them so they can procreate children and nurture a family. Now, that started off in terms of Black men being in the home in the 1950s and 60s, and then it started to just plummet from the 80s to the current day. Because somebody mentioned earlier about 70% of children today are born out of wedlock. Again, we have to look at the generational sin, the generational curses that are suffered by some families or most families, but not everybody. But still, I don't know. I wanted to throw in CRT because somebody mentioned that CRT and Black history don't go together. I do believe that they do go together, because if the other side wants me to read Project 25 and accept it, remember just last year, Diva, they didn't want CRT taught in schools, especially in Florida. So if I would employ other people. Yes, read Project 25, see what they're doing, educate yourself so you are ready to go to legal battle, if you will, to make sure that it doesn't become something that Donald Trump could then put into action by executive order as an official act. We don't want that to happen because you're going to slowly erode women's rights, Black rights, gay rights. You're going to just start taking away those rights. So if the other side isn't willing to listen to CRT or DEI, they don't want it taught in the schools, I'm not going to pay any attention to this nonsense. But I will, review it so I can be armed and ready, fully educated as to what they're going to do, because I already see what they're going to do. So I would employ people. Don't, unless you, I mean, the only way to really, I'm not going to advocate who you vote for, but don't vote for people, though, in my opinion, who will take away your right. Sometimes it's just best to leave the ballot blank. I've done that a few times. If you don't agree with the two people who are running on both parties, just leave it blank. But if you want to make sure that your opposition to Project 25 is heard, you may want to consider voting for Kamala Harris, even though personally, I think we should do a do-over with the primaries, and to see who wants to run for president. But I don't think that's going to be enough time for that. But I did enjoy listening to everybody's different views and opinions. I didn't want to comment on the single parenting of children, but if you really do a sociology view on how Black people, especially Black men, have been affected by slavery and segregation and being held back, having low self-esteem, having disparity, they would soon rather not get married. And then the children come, and then the children repeat the cycle, and then their mental health gets eroded. I attended a church once where there were teenage girls who were brought to the front, and they were told that they were beautiful. I saw a group of girls who were suffering low self-esteem, whereas when I was their age, I didn't have that feeling because I had two parents in the home. All right. I had a mother and a stepfather. But you start to see what's really happening and why these young girls would fall prey to finding love and acceptance. And a lot of times they're looking for validation. They think they find it in a guy that they meet, and they don't think, well, I should wait until I get a ring on my finger and then have my child. So this pattern repeats and repeats. Each generation kind of copies the previous one, and this is where we're at. But you have to do your history with slavery, segregation, in order to fully understand the bigger picture of where we're at. And the solution is to just simply take the current generation that we have today, teach them in the home so we can start to reverse this and hopefully have some type of curriculum in the school where we can, teach, educate, and hopefully start steering young people in the right direction so they don't repeat the previous sins of the past. I mean, this is basically, I hope, Diva, I'm not upsetting you or anything, but
No, you're not. You're fine. You're fine.
but you look nervous, Diva, so I didn't want
I'm
to
sorry. I'm sorry. I do that a lot, and I do this a lot, and I just,
I just thought
connect back with the people. I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to really let everybody just say what needs to be said. But I'm 10 toes down on. no one will break me on this. A family unit, and again, I gave the disclaimer in the beginning. I'm not talking about somebody that's beating your head in this, that, and crazy. A family unit is better. If you traditionally look into statistics, it's not just Diva talking out the side of my neck, but cultures that marry, then have their children, and are a unit, they fare off better across the board when it comes to education, when it comes to housing, when it comes to putting out successful, individuals into the world. There are some cultures that believe in it so much, and I'm not saying that this needs to be done. They believe in that unit so much that they have arranged marriages, right? So, and then there was one person in the chat that it said as if one person wrote this. That's why I'm really encouraging people to look at it. There's more than one group that wrote this. I don't know where people are getting only this person wrote it. There are a slew of people that contributed to this document.
Exactly.
This, I don't even know what page this is, but here it is. Alabama Policy Institute, Alliance Defending Freedom, American Conference. There are some female groups that contributed to this. This is not a document that was contributed by one person. And many people think, if many people want to believe that this is all one party that wrote this, there's so many people that I'm going to use, for lack of better word, they're playing our faces. They'll say one thing, and behind the scenes, when it actually comes time for them to hit that ballot, they hit in something totally different. And anybody who wants to educate themselves on any subject, if you don't look at the opposite side, to me, you are already behind the 8 ball. I think that was the problem with the Biden campaign. I think that was the problem with the Trump campaign. Trump he thought he was going to always run against Biden, and that's why he had no other strategy. And that's why behind the scenes, he's running scared now, because Kamala, he's like, oh, shoot. He knew he could have ran a Mack truck over Biden. So he was over there chilling, just throwing his jokes, doing all kind of stuff. So when Biden dropped out, he was sick to his stomach. And the same thing with Biden. I believe, and this is just Diva's thoughts, I believe that they never even thought they was going to have to deal with Trump, because they thought once that trial happened and all of that, that Trump was not even going to be able to be a component. You got to always, this is not a throw this in the trash. This is to look at this thing, to say to yourself, when something comes up and they try to throw this thing in sideways, you say to yourself, oh, what they really trying to slip in is this right here, right? So, and many people are pulling this. We have got to be clear. You have got to be clear. The foundation to make things change is definitely the family unit. The debauchery that goes on. I did a video earlier where all of this stuff that Diddy is going into, that's being accused of, the FOs, the this, the that, just like you're saying, other things has been in existence from the beginning of days. What Diddy has done, what Epstein has done, what Weinstein was accused of, this thing has been going on in Hollywood since the 30s, or probably even before that. And so Diddy kind of took it into a whole nother spin and level things in a different way, with the making sure he slipped something in the drinks or whatever. So all I'm saying is to everybody is that when you have a problem that exists and it's a clear problem, you have got to say to yourself, let me list out what some solutions can be. If you don't want to list out any solutions and you want to just keep saying, well, trash that, trash this ain't the problem, that ain't the problem, we're never going to get anywhere. On a whole, factual, on a whole, we are at the bottom of the totem pole. How far out are we from slavery? And every time there's a problem, we want to just go back and connect it to slavery. I'm not saying it's not connected, but what I'm saying is, at what point does somebody come up with a solution so that my grandkids or my great grandkids are not still saying that the reason why we're at the bottom of the totem pole is because of slavery? At some point, we got to educate ourselves. We got to come together and say, well, that solution and what they're saying is not so. But what I want to propose to the government is you do X, Y, Z. If you got nothing to propose for them, they're going to come up with their own thought process, and it's never going to connect to what you want because we didn't give them anything to connect to. So what is the solution here? You got to start ground level with some solutions. The beginning of the solution is, yes, and people say, tell people, when I say abstinence, I'm talking across the board. I'm not talking, the females should stay in the corner by themselves and the men should be out there because they're going to get involved with somebody. But I'm saying prevention. I'm saying abstinence. I'm saying that, yes, people, if you don't like pee, don't look at it. I mean, come on. This thing is being exposed to our children. There was a time where regulation on TV, daytime TV, you couldn't show too much. Wendy Williams even talked about it. She talked about how in daytime TV, her shirt couldn't be too low cut. She couldn't show too much cleavage or whatever the case may be. Daytime TV also, it used to be you wouldn't see the people just in the bed doing whatever. Now on regular shows, you see boobs, you see butt, you see everything. Where before you will only see that on cable TV. It's out of control. It's overexposure. It's so much going on that people begin to think this is the norm. And once they get in their mind that it is the norm, everybody's addicted to it. We understand addiction to a substance, but there is other addictions that need to be understood and put out there. I'm telling you right now, when that man says Silicon Valley, they don't even let their kids get these electronics. These electronics, they alter your mind, and it's overexposure to everything. And even if your kid don't have a cell phone, it's 99% chance that their fellow student in the school has one. And they're going at lunchtime, they're going to say, oh, don't worry, you don't got one, come over here. Let me show you this. Let me do this. This is what you do, so forth and so on. I'm glad you came and had this conversation with me. The next one, where am I at? Hold on one second. Let me just go to the page again really quickly, guys. The next initiative on here, the promise number 2 is dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. All I can say is, people, the biggest thing is I can say read, and when you read, try to have an objective mind. This is not read so you agree. This is not read so you can say they're right or they're wrong. This is read so that you can educate yourself on what they are trying to put out there and propose. And let me say this, whether it's Republican or Democrat, when the bigger machine wants to push something out, it will get pushed out. And even if a Democrat is in, the way they will stop it, enforce it, is they will not allow certain laws to get pushed through.
Speak on it, Diva.
Point out. We have got to stand up in a better way and get some ground level people out there in a position to say, I know you're proposing X, Y, Z. How about we come to some middle ground, or how about this is the way that we resolve it? There are other countries. Healthcare in the U.S. is out of control. Out of control. Out of control. There are other countries where you can get a whole body scan and all kind of stuff done for like $2 in comparison to the thousands here in the U.S. We got a lot of fish to fry, but I think the difficulty is we get so stuck on minute stuff and we battle each other, and that's why we can't ever rise up. Listen, people, level up, rise up. Do whatever it is you got to do. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I am here to tell you that you should read. But anyway, guys, I gotta go. It's 2 hours here. Chat with me when this video is over. I will definitely chat back. I'll be checking the comments on this video. I appreciate y'all. I don't know when we're gonna cover Promise 2, but we will cover everything in this project 2025 throughout the weeks coming. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you next time. If you didn't hit the like button on the way in, hit the like button on the way out. Thanks, everybody. Good night and goodbye.